Most men want women to respect them, but very few actually earn it. Respect isn't given, it's commanded. And there's only one type of man women truly respect. If you're tired of being overlooked, ignored, or taken for granted, listen carefully, because this might just change the way you see yourself forever. Women don't respect men who lack self-respect. It doesn't matter how much you provide, how much you care, or how much you give. If you don't hold yourself with value, she will see you as disposable. Self-respect is the foundation of how the world perceives you, and women are incredibly perceptive when it comes to spotting whether a man has it or not. A man with self-respect communicates it without saying a word. It's in the way he carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he sets limits. When a man values himself, his energy says, "I don't need your approval to feel worthy. I already know who I am." That energy demands respect. Most men confuse being nice with being respected. They believe that by constantly sacrificing, by always saying yes, by putting her needs above their own, they will win admiration. But women don't respect men who play the role of a doormat. Women may enjoy the benefits of a man who gives endlessly, but deep inside, she will never admire him. Why? Because admiration is born when a man shows that he values himself enough to not lose his identity in pleasing others. Self-respect is the line that separates generosity from weakness. You can give, but when you give without boundaries, it is not strength, it is desperation. Think about this. If a man doesn't respect himself, how can he teach anyone else to respect him? If you accept disrespect, if you tolerate being treated as less than you deserve, you are showing her exactly how to treat you. She will push the line. She will test your limits, not because she wants to hurt you, but because she wants to see if you truly know your worth. Women subconsciously test men to measure the strength of their self-respect. And every time you allow disrespect to slide, every time you choose silence when you should set a boundary, you send the message that you don't value yourself enough. And the less you value yourself, the less she will. Self-respect is not about arrogance or pride. It is not about looking down on others. It is about holding yourself to a standard where you refuse to compromise your dignity for temporary validation. It means you don't beg for attention. You don't chase after people who ignore you. You don't lower your standards just to fit in. When a man respects himself, he knows that losing someone who doesn't value him is not a loss, it is a gain. He walks away from disrespect because he understands that his worth is not negotiable. This kind of strength is rare, and that rarity makes women look at him differently. You can see this everywhere. Look at men who constantly overinvest in women, showering them with gifts, attention, and endless effort just to be noticed. Often, those same men are the ones complaining about being overlooked, ignored, or taken for granted. The problem isn't the woman. The problem is that he has taught her through his actions that his respect for himself is weak. But when a man prioritizes self-respect, when he places his dignity above his desires, everything shifts. His presence carries weight. His silence speaks volumes. And women instinctively respect him because they know he will never lower his crown for anyone. Boundaries and standards are what separate men who are respected from men who are used. A man without boundaries is like a house without walls. Anyone can walk in, take what they want, and leave whenever they please. And yet, so many men live this way. They allow people to cross their limits. They tolerate behavior they dislike. And they stay silent when they should speak up, all because they fear losing the person who is crossing those lines. But the truth is, when you have no boundaries, you don't protect your value. And when you don't protect your value, you cannot expect anyone else to. Women don't admire men who let disrespect slide. They admire men who set a standard and stick to it no matter how much they desire someone. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're controlling. It doesn't mean you're rigid. It means you are clear about what you will accept and what you will never tolerate. A man with standards doesn't need to shout about them. He lives them. He doesn't need to constantly explain what he deserves. His actions show it. When a woman sees that you walk away from disrespect, when she sees that you don't allow yourself to be manipulated or belittled, she instantly recognizes your strength. And strength is what earns respect. The more a man compromises his boundaries for temporary comfort, the more he communicates weakness. The more he stands firm, the more he communicates value. Think about it. When you go to a high-end store, you don't walk in and start negotiating the price. You know the value of the product is fixed, and if you cannot afford it, you walk away. That's exactly how women see men who live with standards. She knows his value is non-negotiable. She knows he won't lower his worth just to keep her interest. And even if she doesn't like those limits, deep down, she respects them. A man who bends his standards just to keep a woman around is silently telling her, "You are above me, and I will shrink myself to fit what you want." That energy doesn't attract respect, it attracts exploitation. Boundaries are also a test of your emotional strength. It's easy to set a standard. It's harder to enforce it when emotions are involved. Many men talk about self-respect, but the moment they are faced with the possibility of losing someone, they abandon their boundaries. That's why women test limits. Not because they are cruel, but because they want to see if your standards are real or if they collapse under pressure. A man who stays firm, even when he risks losing her, is the man she cannot ignore. Because she realizes he is not driven by desperation. He is driven by principle. That principle makes him rare, and rarity always demands respect. When you allow someone to repeatedly disrespect you, you are training them to continue. When you show someone that you will stay no matter how they treat you, you give them permission to mistreat you. But when you enforce boundaries, you shift the entire dynamic. Suddenly, she knows you are not a man who can be controlled with beauty, with attention, or with affection. She knows you are not a man who will bend to every demand. You show her that your respect for yourself is greater than your desire for her approval. And that realization changes everything about the way she sees you. A man without purpose drifts through life like a ship without direction. He wakes up every day reacting to circumstances instead of creating them. He goes wherever life pushes him, and because of that, he becomes dependent on others for validation, approval, and meaning. Women instinctively recognize this lack of direction. A man who has no vision, no mission, and no ambition does not inspire respect. He only inspires pity. Purpose is what transforms a man from ordinary to extraordinary. It's the fire in his eyes, the certainty in his steps, and the discipline in his choices. A man with purpose doesn't need to chase respect. It is drawn to him naturally because people admire someone who knows exactly where they are going. Purpose gives a man strength that nothing else can provide. A man who is mission-driven cannot be easily manipulated because his focus is larger than momentary pleasures or distractions. He isn't swayed by temporary attention, nor does he fall apart when he faces rejection. Why? Because he is too focused on his journey. His energy isn't consumed by chasing approval. It's consumed by building something greater than himself. That kind of man carries an energy that women cannot ignore. They feel it in the way he talks about his goals, in the way he invests his time, and in the way he refuses to waste his potential. Purpose is magnetic, and it separates the men who inspire respect from those who simply exist. Without purpose, a man becomes stagnant, and stagnation is unattractive. He may have charm, he may have looks, but if he lacks drive, that charm eventually fades and those looks lose their power. Women respect men who are builders, men who are constantly improving themselves, their careers, their businesses, their minds, their bodies, and their futures. This is not about chasing money alone. It is about having a reason for everything you do. A man who works on himself, who wakes up every day with a mission, projects discipline and strength. And discipline is one of the highest forms of respect. When a woman sees a man sacrificing comfort for growth, she knows she is looking at someone who will not waste his life, and that awareness sparks admiration. A man who is purpose-driven also becomes less reactive in relationships. He doesn't crumble when faced with challenges because his life is not centered only on her. He doesn't beg for her attention because his mission keeps him fulfilled. He doesn't allow a relationship to define him because he already has definition through his vision. That doesn't mean he neglects love or partnership. It means he never sacrifices his destiny for temporary affection. And ironically, this is what makes women respect him more. Because she sees that his world doesn't revolve around her alone, she understands that he values himself and his mission. And when a man values something beyond her, she is drawn to that strength. A man's purpose doesn't have to be something grand in the eyes of the world. It doesn't have to be fame, wealth, or status. It can be as simple as building a family legacy, creating a business, mastering a craft, or dedicating himself to a cause. What matters is that he has direction, that he has clarity, and that he has a reason to keep pushing forward. Because when a man lives with purpose, he is not just existing, he is leading, he is building, and he is inspiring. And that inspiration is what commands true respect from a woman, because deep inside, every woman wants to stand beside a man who knows exactly where he is going. A man's strength is tested not in moments of comfort, but in moments of chaos. Any man can appear confident when life is smooth, but the real measure of respect comes from how a man handles pressure, conflict, and emotional storms. Women are not impressed by men who react impulsively, who explode at the smallest inconvenience, or who collapse at the first sign of stress. Emotional control is not about suppressing feelings. It is about mastering them. It is about being able to feel anger without letting it control your actions, to feel pain without letting it destroy your presence, and to feel desire without letting it make you desperate. This ability to remain composed under pressure creates a sense of unshakable strength, and that strength is what women deeply respect. Think about the man who loses his temper easily. Every time something doesn't go his way, he shouts, curses, or throws things. That man doesn't communicate power, he communicates weakness. His emotions control him, and anyone who can control him through his emotions instantly owns him. On the other hand, a man who can stay calm when he's tested, who can listen when he's provoked, and who can respond with clarity instead of chaos, shows that he is in command of himself. Women see this difference immediately. They know which man is strong because his emotions bend to his will, and which man is weak because his emotions dictate his every move. Respect never goes to the man who is easily shaken. It goes to the one who remains grounded no matter what. Emotional control also determines how much respect a man earns in relationships. Many men sabotage themselves by overreacting, becoming jealous at every little thing, panicking when they feel ignored, or drowning in neediness when a woman pulls away. That emotional instability kills attraction and destroys respect. But the man who keeps his composure, who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't fall apart when she tests his patience, earns a completely different response. Women test men not to destroy them, but to measure their strength. And the man who stands firm through those tests proves that he is not a boy driven by emotions. He is a man guided by principle. That quiet control over himself commands admiration because she sees that he cannot be manipulated. It's also important to understand that emotional control doesn't mean being cold or heartless. It doesn't mean you should never feel. It means you are aware of your feelings but refuse to let them dominate you. When you're angry, you don't act recklessly. You think before you speak. When you're hurt, you don't seek pity. You channel that pain into growth. When you're in love, you don't lose yourself. You stay centered in who you are. That level of mastery is rare, and rarity always attracts respect. A man who can balance his emotions, who can stay steady while still being human, creates an aura of reliability. And reliability is one of the most powerful forms of masculine strength. Women feel secure around a man with emotional control. They know that no matter what happens, he won't crumble. They know that he won't make reckless choices out of anger or collapse out of fear or drown in desperation when things get tough. That security makes her respect him because respect is born from trust. And trust is built when a man proves through his actions that he is not a prisoner to his emotions. A man who cannot master himself cannot lead, cannot protect, and cannot inspire. But a man who remains calm in storms, who chooses clarity over chaos, and who refuses to let his emotions dictate his worth, becomes the kind of man who commands silent admiration every time he walks into a room. A man's words mean nothing if they are not supported by his actions. In fact, inconsistency is one of the fastest ways to lose respect, not just from women, but from everyone around you. Anyone can talk about being strong, disciplined, or ambitious, but the real question is, do your daily actions reflect the man you claim to be? Consistency is not about perfection, it is about alignment. It is about proving through repetition that your character is not dependent on moods, circumstances, or temporary motivation. Women respect men who are predictable in their strength, who don't need to constantly explain their values because their actions communicate them clearly. Inconsistency creates confusion. Imagine a man who one day is deeply focused on his goals, but the next day he is lazy and distracted. One day he speaks about principles and standards, but the next day he compromises them for comfort. One day he sets boundaries, but the next day he allows disrespect to pass unchecked. This inconsistency weakens him because it shows he cannot be trusted to hold his ground. Respect is built on reliability, and without consistency, reliability cannot exist. A woman may be drawn to charm or charisma for a while, but if she sees that your actions shift constantly, she will never truly respect you. Respect comes when she knows what to expect from you every single time. Consistency also communicates discipline. A man who shows up daily for himself, whether it's in his work, his fitness, his growth, or his responsibilities, proves that he is not a slave to comfort. He doesn't rely on motivation, he relies on commitment. That commitment is powerful because it builds a foundation of trust. Women respect men who can be counted on, not men who are only strong when it's convenient. When your actions are steady, when you keep your word, when you stay loyal to your principles regardless of how you feel in the moment, you separate yourself from the majority of men who give up when things get difficult. And that separation is what commands respect. Consistency in actions also creates stability in relationships. A woman does not want to be with a man who is unpredictable in his energy, affectionate today, cold tomorrow, disciplined one moment, careless the next. That inconsistency breeds insecurity, and insecurity kills respect. But when a man is steady in how he treats her, steady in how he respects himself, and steady in how he moves toward his purpose, she feels safe in his presence. Safety leads to admiration because she knows she can trust his character regardless of the situation. Even when she disagrees with him, even when they face conflict, his consistency reassures her that he will not crumble, change, or abandon his principles overnight. The truth is, consistency is not glamorous. It is not exciting in the short term because it requires repetition, discipline, and patience. But in the long term, consistency builds credibility. It separates men who are taken seriously from men who are dismissed. Words can inspire temporarily, but actions repeated over time inspire lasting respect. A man who consistently shows strength, who consistently enforces his boundaries, who consistently pursues his mission, and who consistently demonstrates self-respect, creates an image of reliability that women cannot ignore. Because in a world full of men who talk without following through, the man who acts with consistency becomes rare, and rarity is always respected. Confidence is silent strength, while arrogance is loud insecurity. Many men confuse the two, but women can tell the difference instantly. Arrogance is about showing off, seeking attention, and constantly reminding others of your worth because deep down, you don't fully believe in it yourself. Confidence, on the other hand, doesn't need validation. It is the calm assurance that no matter where you are, no matter who you're with, you know your value and you don't need anyone to confirm it. Women respect men who carry themselves with quiet certainty, not men who try to convince the world that they are important. Confidence is built from within. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, from mastering your craft, from pushing through challenges, and from proving to yourself that you can rely on your own strength. This is why confidence cannot be faked for long. A man may act confident, he may speak loudly, he may brag about what he has, but if his inner foundation is weak, it eventually shows. Women pick up on this quickly because confidence is not in what you say. It's in how you move, how you react under pressure, and how steady you remain in the face of adversity. True confidence doesn't scream, it whispers, and yet it is powerful enough to be felt without words. Arrogance, on the other hand, is fragile. It is the mask men wear when they haven't built real strength. The arrogant man demands respect instead of earning it. He exaggerates his achievements, belittles others, and tries to prove superiority in every interaction. Women don't respect this behavior because it signals insecurity. If you were truly strong, you wouldn't need to put others down to feel higher. Real confidence elevates not just yourself, but those around you. It doesn't compete. It dominates silently by presence alone. A man who is confident doesn't need to tell you he's powerful. His energy makes it obvious. Confidence also shows in how you treat women. The insecure, arrogant man will try to control her, restrict her, or prove his dominance through jealousy and possession. But a confident man has no need for control because he knows his worth cannot be threatened. He is not afraid of her independence, her attention, or her choices because his sense of self is not tied to her behavior. Women deeply respect men who stand secure in themselves because it creates a sense of safety. She knows that no matter what happens, he won't collapse into insecurity or try to drag her down to validate his ego. That steadiness is attractive in a way arrogance can never be. Another difference between arrogance and confidence lies in humility. Arrogance rejects humility, but confidence embraces it. A truly confident man doesn't need to pretend he knows everything. He is comfortable admitting when he is wrong because his ego is not fragile. He doesn't see mistakes as threats. He sees them as opportunities to grow. Women respect this humility because it shows maturity and strength. The arrogant man resists growth, but the confident man evolves, and evolution is one of the most attractive traits a man can possess. Confidence is not about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the calmest. It's not about constantly competing. It's about knowing there is no competition because you are secure in who you are. And when a man embodies this quiet, steady, unshakable confidence, he commands respect effortlessly, while arrogance only demands it and rarely receives it. Leadership and direction are not about controlling others. They are about guiding yourself with such clarity that people naturally trust your path. A man who lacks direction drifts aimlessly, hoping that life will somehow align for him. He waits for opportunities instead of creating them. And because he has no map for his life, he allows others to decide for him. Women cannot respect a man who does not know where he is going. She may feel sympathy for him, she may even care for him, but respect only flows toward the man who has a vision, who knows what he wants, and who is willing to move toward it with conviction. Leadership begins with leading yourself. Before you can guide anyone else, you must show mastery over your own choices, your own discipline, and your own direction. Too many men want to be followed without first proving they can lead themselves. But women notice quickly. If you cannot make decisions confidently, if you hesitate at every turn, if you lack clarity about your goals, she will not see you as a leader. And the truth is, women are drawn to leaders. Not because they want to be controlled, but because they want to feel safe beside a man who knows where he is going. Safety is born from direction, and direction is what makes her admire you. Leadership also means responsibility. A real man does not blame others for his failures. He does not hide behind excuses. He takes ownership of his actions, whether they bring success or setbacks. That accountability sets him apart because most men avoid responsibility. They run when things get hard. They shift blame when mistakes happen, and they collapse when challenges appear. But the leader stays firm, accepts reality, and continues to move forward. That resilience makes him trustworthy, and trust is the foundation of respect. A woman respects a man when she knows that even if the road is difficult, he will not abandon the wheel. Direction gives purpose to leadership. A man can have strength, intelligence, and even ambition, but without direction, all of that energy is scattered. Direction means you know where you are headed, and you refuse to be distracted by temporary pleasures that take you off course. A man with direction doesn't wander aimlessly. He builds. He invests his time, energy, and focus into something meaningful, whether it is his career, his growth, or his legacy. Women respect this because it shows maturity. It shows that he is not wasting his life chasing instant gratification. It shows that he has the vision to think long-term, to plan ahead, and to walk with discipline towards something bigger than himself. Leadership is also tested in relationships. A woman may admire your looks, your charm, or your intelligence, but respect comes when she feels your leadership. This doesn't mean controlling her choices. It means providing direction for the relationship, making decisions with clarity, and guiding with steadiness when challenges arise. When she sees that you don't crumble under pressure, that you can stand strong when she is emotional, that you can protect the direction of the relationship when things get difficult, she respects you on a deeper level. Leadership doesn't mean forcing your way. It means inspiring trust so deeply that she naturally follows your lead without resistance. A man with leadership and direction walks differently. He doesn't chase validation because he is too focused on his mission. He doesn't fear losing people because he knows his path will attract those who belong. He doesn't get lost in confusion because his clarity lights the way forward. And when a woman stands beside this kind of man, she feels not only admiration but also pride because she knows she is walking next to someone who is going somewhere with certainty. A man's energy is his most valuable currency, and yet most men waste it recklessly. They spread their focus too thin, chasing women, chasing approval, chasing acceptance from people who don't even value them. They invest their time, their emotions, and their attention into anyone who shows them a little bit of interest, only to end up drained and overlooked. But the truth is, a man who gives his energy to everyone has no power left to give to himself. And women notice this instantly. They do not respect the man who is constantly available to everyone, who entertains every distraction, who has no filter on who gets his time. They respect the man who is selective, who guards his energy carefully, and who chooses wisely where to invest himself. Being selective with your energy does not mean being cold, selfish, or detached. It means knowing that your time and focus are sacred, and not everyone deserves access to them. A man who understands this lives differently. He doesn't spend hours trying to convince people of his worth. He doesn't chase women who are indifferent toward him. He doesn't allow toxic people to stay in his life just because he fears being alone. Instead, he operates with the mindset that his presence is valuable, and if someone wants to experience it, they must prove worthy of it. This shift in mindset alone changes the way others view him. Suddenly, he is no longer a man who is easily available. He is a man whose attention must be earned. Women respect this deeply because it signals self-control and high value. When a man is selective with his energy, he shows that he has standards not only for how he is treated, but also for how he spends his own time. A woman quickly realizes that he won't waste his focus on games, manipulation, or endless drama. She understands that if she wants to be in his life, she must bring peace, respect, and value, because his energy will not be wasted on anything less. This makes him stand out from the majority of men who drain themselves by constantly trying to prove something. Selectivity is rare, and rarity always commands admiration. This principle applies in every area of life. The man who is selective about his friendships surrounds himself only with people who push him forward, not those who pull him down. The man who is selective about his habits doesn't indulge in distractions that kill his progress. He invests his time in growth and discipline. The man who is selective about his relationships doesn't give attention to anyone who disrespects him or fails to match his energy. By guarding his focus this way, he multiplies his strength. His life becomes sharper, clearer, and more powerful, and that strength radiates through his presence. Women pick up on that difference immediately. They can feel when a man's energy is focused and intentional versus when it is scattered and desperate. And here's the truth: the more selective you are with your energy, the more valuable it becomes. Scarcity creates respect. When a man is not always available, when his attention is not easily gained, when his time is not freely given to everyone, people begin to value it more. Women especially feel this difference because they realize he is not desperate for attention, he is not trying to impress, and he is not afraid of walking away. He knows his worth, and because he knows it, he protects it. And protection of energy is one of the highest forms of self-respect a man can display. So understand this: respect is never demanded. It is earned. It is not given freely. It is commanded by the kind of man you choose to become. Every word I shared with you today is not just theory, it's reality. Women only respect the man who respects himself, who sets standards, who leads with purpose, who controls his emotions, who shows consistency, who carries true confidence, who walks with direction, and who protects his energy. If you want her respect, stop chasing her approval. Start becoming the man who naturally earns it. Respect is not about what you say to her, it's about what you show through your life. So the question is no longer, will women respect me? The real question is, am I living in a way that makes respect the only option?